funny to see you have an email address that's jeff@gay.com because if I take you back to the late 80s, when a young gay Gabe finds gay.com, it was so transformative in my life. And so it's very interesting and kind of cool after all this time to be back together with you all. I'm sure some of you may too have used gay.com during that time. Things have advanced a lot. Technology's advanced a lot. And primarily, probably one of the biggest differences between then and now is how we interact with each other and how we interact with technology. And I'm sure that many of you, have had this experience at one time or another. And particularly, if you happen to be a gay man living in a largely gay environment, you, like the average American, are checking your phone probably 115 to 150 times per day, because that is the average number. That's not the max number, that's the average. And if you're a gay man, you have the added likely distraction of a number of different, like hookup apps, for example, which are messaging you on a regular basis to get your attention, which are changing the way we interact with each other. I'm going to set this in a value-free context. Whether this is good or bad, I don't know, but it's definitely different. And typically, we think of adult entertainment as being the aggressor. Usually, when I talk to other industries and I talk to a wide range of people, adult entertainment is one of the great enemies for their engagement, right? Their adult entertainment eats into the time that people could be spending watching television or hanging out with their children. But the relationship between invasive engagement, eating technology, and adult entertainment isn't that simple. It's not just that adult entertainment takes time to do things, but technology and adult entertainment have a long history of symbiotic evolution together, right? But whether or not that symbiosis continues to be in your favor all the time is an open question. Now, when asking the question, why is it that people use porn in general? Three kind of big topics bubble out of that research. So there's education, people like to learn. There's pleasure, engagement with the pleasure-seeking aspect of life. That's another one. And the third aspect, and maybe a little bit less savory, and this phrase is a little awkward, but self-medication is a very large piece of the reason why people use adult entertainment. They want to change their mental state, and they use adult entertainment to change their mental state. That's self-medication. It sounds heavy, but that's all we need. Now, of the reasons why people like to change their mental state, there are three big emotions, working in emotional design. There are three big emotions that tend to trigger a lot of behavior change. And they are anxiety, boredom, and loneliness. These are three emotions that everybody experiences. Most of us actually experience them multiple times per day. And when they bubble up, the average human really doesn't like those three emotions. They don't feel good, they don't feel accretive, and they're things that we want to change. In particular, boredom itself has become one of the most extinct ideas on the face of the earth. I don't think we could have anticipated how much we could have killed boredom in such a short period of time. But to be perfectly honest with you, nobody has to be bored for even a second, right? You don't have to wait for a fucking elevator and just be alone with your thoughts if you want to. All you have to do is pull that little magic black mirror out of your pocket. And instantly, you're doing something else. So you don't have to be bored for even 1 second. So congrats, humans. We conquered boredom. Yes. It's amazing. It's a big achievement. Now, what is the purpose of boredom? Why do we feel boredom? Why do humans feel boredom? So, from an evolutionary standpoint, we feel boredom because of a brain behavior called habituation. Okay? And habituation is an evolutionary state in the brain which allows us to tone down external stimuli and focus on the thing that's important. Okay? And what it means is you don't find the same stimulus as interesting all the time. Okay? Habituation is what allows you to ignore the fact that the room is a little warm, the person next to you smells a little bit, there's loud noise coming from the other room, and focus on the important topic, which is the dude standing in front of you talking. But that same behavior also means that everything becomes boring. That same system in your brain makes everything boring for time. Now, you guys probably know this better than anyone. GayVN in particular have a much more open conversation about this topic. But sex itself gets boring really fucking fast. And just to put this into context, Danish researchers studied 15,000 straight couples, so not exactly the same, 15,000 straight couples, to understand boredom in a relationship, and understand habituation in a relationship. And what they found was that, and this does not apply to you in your relationships, I'm sure, but the average couple at about 2 years switches from romantic affection to companionship affection. Okay? So that is to say, for the first 2 years, the average straight couple wakes up every morning being like, yes, you are so hot. And at some point along the way, wakes up in the morning, it's like, all right, we're waiting. Cool. Here we go. And the researcher's point in that was that there's nothing abnormal about that. That is a perfectly normal reaction to things. Again, I'm sure this does not happen in your life, but just consider, right? This like sexual interaction with a primary partner is the hottest person that you can convince to have sex with on a regular basis without having to pay them. That is a very high standard to be bored of so quickly, and 2 years is really quick. So everything else on Earth is measured against that standard, and the brain is a highly adaptable system that becomes habituated to everything really fast. We get bored fast. The whole economy is structured around this boredom. Your businesses, to many extents, exist in reaction to people's ability to be bored quickly. But I put up the picture of the KFC Double Down for a particular reason. The food industry is very methodical and very specific and invests a ton of money in figuring out how to deal with people's boredom. They engineer solutions to people's boredom to flavor. Right? That's what they do. They spend billions of dollars a year coming up with new tastes that raise the salt, fat, and sugar level, but not too high, to help people feel excited about the things that they're eating. They can adapt. This is to a great extent a large chunk of our economy designed around this idea of combating habituation. The underlying thing that enables us to combat boredom efficiently is technology. It's actually technology that we're using to combat boredom in every sphere of human interaction. Now, some of you may have seen this chart before. This is called Moore's Law, okay? And what it states is that over time, technology advances in a rate that's exponential. And so this is plotting the power of computing for a given amount of money over a period of time. And it looks like a nice straight line, starts in 1900, up to the 2010s, right? The axis, the y-axis on the left, is actually an exponential axis. So each one of those tick marks is twice the size of the item below it. So in fact, this chart is a crazy upward line like this in the standard chart. Just can't be represented in a chart. So it's done this way. Technology is advancing at a super rapid rate. And a great deal of that advance is literally to fight boredom. We tend to think of it as like, computer scientists made new computers, more powerful computers because we want faster spreadsheets and better data processing power. But actually, that's not what drives all those nerds in Silicon Valley. They're not making faster computers because they want faster spreadsheets. They're making faster computers because they want to live in a virtual world. They're making faster computers because they themselves are bored with their slow computers. Because this thing was super fast like 6 months ago when I got it, and now it makes me crazy because it's so slow. And this is the really interesting thing about the human brain. We often look at this chart, many of you, especially those of you like from my generation, maybe older, you might look at this chart and go, there's no possible way people could adapt to this increase in technology. We're way out ahead of the human psyche. We can't possibly adapt to this. This is so fast. But in practice, these technologies that were pure magic, just magic ideas in our brains only a few years ago, we adapt to them like that. Because they're not only technologies being made by some nerds, but they're being made by people with human brains who want to adapt and want to not be bored. And those technologies turn around and become part of the arsenal that we use to prevent people from being bored. Now, a desire to never be bored, an extreme reaction to habituation, can also produce some really negative results. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But what's been happening in parallel to this increase in technology and our understanding of the human brain, that people have been interested in the science of how we engage people and how we design repeatable systems that are cheap and effective at getting people to engage with a particular experience over a long period of time, right? So that idea, which has been distilled down into a phrase called gamification, or an idea called behavioral design, has become this very exciting topic in the technology business. I've written 4 books on the subject. I've run the main conference on this particular topic. I spent the better part of the last 10 years helping companies of all kinds design repeatable algorithmic systems that make it cheap and easy to keep people engaged with whatever it is that they're selling over a long period of time. Because it's the algorithms and the technology and the people together that create an engaging system, not any one of those things on their own. So, how has the adult business dealt with the question of habituation over time? Now, I'm not an adult industry expert, I'm just a customer. But my observation is the primary tool that adult folks have created to deal with habituation and boredom has been to increase horizontal choice. Increase by a humongous number, exponential number, the number of options available to a consumer interested in consuming pornography. When I was a child, there was a video store, it had one aisle, it had a bunch of VHS tapes or whatever, and then now it's a literally limitless, unlimited amount of content. Limitless horizontal choice. While you've been doing horizontal choice, the video game industry has been pursuing a very different strategy. Now, it's not that there aren't a number of varied video games, but if you take a critical look at the types of video games that are available today, the number of different styles or themes of video games are not markedly different from the themes and styles of video games that were available 20 or 30 years ago. They still fall into 6 or 7 large buckets. What has happened, however, the games industry has gotten much better at vertically understanding the problem of boredom and building systems that get better at an individual person's boredom rather than dealing with the wide horizontal swath of habituation. So the games industry has innovated algorithms that are designed to take one person who sits down in front of a game and get you to sit there for as long as possible, to get you to sit there in a diaper so that you will keep playing that game for 3 days straight and not get up from your seat. That's an extreme example. But that is, in fact, a design construct for many game designers. Get you to play, single person play, as long as possible. And that's possible because of a few understandings of the human brain that game designers think about a lot every day. And one of those things is this concept called intrinsic reinforcement. Okay? This is Angry Birds. Many of you played this game, Angry Birds. Here's how intrinsic reinforcement works, okay? In intrinsic reinforcement, you challenge yourself to something. Anything at all, doesn't matter what it is. And then you achieve that thing. And your brain secretes a little bit of a magical neurotransmitter called dopamine, okay? So, challenge achievement has dopamine flows really good in your brain. And the next thing that happens after you have this dopaminergic release, ignorance, is that your brain says, please, man, another. And you say, I want to do that again, right? Challenge achievement. Challenge achievement. Yeah. Okay? So in Angry Birds, remember this game? Shut up. Okay? That's all you're doing in Angry Birds. Over and over and over and over and over and over again. Hundreds of times per hour. And each one of those little interactions with dopamine in your brain makes your brain say, this is really fun, this is really fun, I really like this, I want to do this again and again and again and again and again. Now, by comparison, in most adult interactions, the behavior pattern, the dopamine release pattern, looks a lot more like something like, I don't know, going to college, or learning a new language, or running a marathon, right? It's build, dopamine. And then move on. Versus this constant reinforcing loop that's happening over and over and over again. So it behaves very differently, and it feels very different in the brain. The other thing that games have done very differently is they focus a lot on the concepts of progress and mastery. And anytime you're playing a game, you know exactly where you are in the arc of the game's total story. And not only where you are now, but how far you've come, and how far you still have to go, more or less. You don't always know exactly what's in front of you, but you know that there's more stuff to do. And you also know that you've achieved all of these things that have brought you to this point, and so you've invested in those things, and you do not want to give that investment up easily. Meaning, you want to keep doing this thing because you've already spent all this time doing this thing, and you don't want to stop having this thing that you've learned from doing this thing every time. Progress. And at the same time, that progress system conveys the idea of mastery, which is that you're getting better at the thing that you're doing, even if that thing is completely pointless. The thing that people are getting better at when they use your products and services is much more important than playing Candy Crush. You cannot learn something in Candy Crush that is as important to your quality of life as you can if you were learning how to have better sex, for example. Okay? They're not comparable. But in a person's brain and heart, they are totally comparable. And the Candy Crush experience is much more positive and funny today. It feels better, and they're making more progress. If the Candy Crush example doesn't resonate for you, let me put up another game on the screen that might make more sense to explain the idea of progress and mastery. And that is 3-5 programs. How do you feel when you've gotten up to this level or this level in the Delta Medaille program or in the Enact or American, and all of a sudden it's November and you are 50,000 miles away from making that tier again? How do you feel? Feel like shit. Fuck. I have to sit back there with these fucking people. Not behind the curtain, not behind the curtain, please. I gotta turn off. Okay? So you build up this idea in your mind that you have to have this thing. And here's the other secret of why games are so good at engaging people. Game designers understand the premise of loss aversion. And that is to say, losing something that you already have is much, much, much scarier and much more important to most people than gaining something that you do not yet have. Okay? So by giving people something that feels like status or achievement up front, games further the idea that you will want to preserve that thing and continue to invest and keep moving forward and get that status and keep moving forward and get that status. And people are really status driven. And these are some of the techniques, these are some of the inside techniques that games use to be so addictive and engaging. The premise, the overarching idea, I mentioned this word, you've heard this word a couple of times, that explains how we take the best things from games and apply them in other spheres is called gamification. And that's about using ideas from games, loyalty programs, behavioral economics to make things more sticky and engaging. And just to put into more sharp relief, the idea that games are really good at getting people to do stuff, to engage. I show you 2 pictures of people hurting themselves badly playing Pokemon Go. In one case, a pair of guys walked off an actual cliff playing Pokemon Go. And in the other case, caught fully on camera, a young gentleman in Germany walked off the end of a pier chasing a Pokemon. Funny, right? If you were wondering how serious of a problem Pokemon Go injuries and deaths are, well, my friends, like so many things the internet will provide, you can simply go to PokemonGoDeathTracker.com and stay abreast of all the ways that Pokemon Go is hurting society. As of right now, we're up to 12 deaths and 53 injuries. Okay? But you get the picture, more or less, right? A really well-constructed game, is capable of getting people to do things like die. It's intense. Now, in some corners of the world, the idea that this could be a problem has started to bubble up to the surface and become apparent, become actual policy. So in China, for example, where it's estimated that 6% of the population is addicted to the internet, the government has come up with a state-sanctioned system for dealing with this childhood addiction issue, which includes military-style boot camps that you can send your child to in the event that they over-rotate on internet technology. It means that there is a growing understanding and awareness that various technologies can become addictive and that they are both a health and social issue. This idea is not totally foreign to the United States, but here in the United States, instead of focusing on the health and safety issues of the internet and social media, the government is focused on the health and safety issues of porn. And a new front in the fight against your work, in the legislative approach to your work, is no longer to attack it on morality grounds. It's not to attack it on decency grounds. The First Amendment issues are hopefully settled. It's to attack it on health grounds and safety grounds. And health and safety regulation by the government is well-established law. It does not need to go to the Supreme Court to regulate things for health and safety. Its attitude towards this issue is only growing as popular understanding of the dangers of addictive technology in particular, including porn and other addictive technology, grows. And the cacophony for some amount of health regulation will continue to increase. So, because I've spent the better part of the last 10 years working on making things more addictive and watching the path of things as they become more engaging and addictive, about a year ago, I started working on another project called Onward. And this project aims to help people achieve balance between technology and real life. We call it tech-life balance. It's a very straightforward idea. And the concept is, none of these vices that we consume, none of these technologies that we consume in our lives are inherently bad or good. But some people may use them too much. And periodically, some people may use them to the detriment of their own well-being. And that idea is an idea that's becoming entrenched in popular culture and discourse. It's something that the vast majority of people believe to be true. Like, over 50% of the population has said they have a smartphone problem. And that's an issue that we feel needs addressing from a neutral, kind of critical evaluating approach. So, over the last year, we've been building the technology, and we've run an experiment. The technology design is advised by the heads of the Addiction Research Center at UCLA and at Columbia. And we've been piloting Onward for 4 months with a population of people who feel like they overuse porn. And what we've been able to do is help those people, about 2/3 of them reduce their use, and individual people reducing that use by about 30%. And so these are people who believe they have a problem with porn. This is not the whole population. We don't step into the breach saying you should quit porn entirely, porn is totally bad. That's not our perspective on it. But our perspective is that at times people may get in and out of balance, and the technology is designed to help them do that, to help them get back in balance. And so one of my points of advocacy for you is I would love to see this industry adopt similar techniques to what the gambling industry has done to deal with the small but nonetheless real population of people who have a problem overusing the product. And that is to say, and I think in the case of porn, we have a particular opportunity, which is to offer people an opportunity to work on their overuse. Not to quit entirely, not to ban themselves from the site, but simply to give them another tool in their arsenal to reduce their overuse, to get them back into balance. And that's one of the things that I would love to talk to any of you about who are interested. I myself have had family members who've dealt with addictions, who've been gamblers and other kinds of addictions, drug and alcohol addiction. And I, as a gay man, happy to admit, I have gone through periods of time in my life when I have been totally overusing hookup apps and porn. There's no question. And I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm not broken. Just like the vast majority of people who have those moments are not broken. They overcome them, right? They get back to a better place over time. But there's no reason why we can't help those people, and at the same time, protect this industry and the important work that you do against a kind of regulatory wave and a popular cultural pushback that is a threat to the way that the work is done. It's not a First Amendment threat, it's a health threat, and that health issue is real. It is real. So that's a thing that we would very much like to do and work on for a balance. And so I'll leave you with this kind of summary thought. Many of you may have seen this cover in magazine from last year. I'll leave you with this sort of summary thought, which is, I believe that the purpose of porn, the role of pornography, the role of adult content entertainment in society is actually very important. Actually, it's important. It serves an important purpose. It is good overall, and it helps a lot of people overall. And I think that there's opportunities to bring the techniques of games, so whether that is, the dopamine loop, that intrinsic reinforcement we talked about, the concepts of progress and mastery, and loss aversion, and algorithms that help people engage more, sort of the way that the for free folks have rolled out a gamified loyalty program on their sites. There's many options to use gamification to increase engagement with users. And at the same time, I think as an industry, it's important to recognize that we should take a responsibility for helping those people who may need help at times when they might be overusing. Because in the long term, a healthy customer is a good long-term customer. Preventing people from getting to the point, preventing society from getting to the point where it's like porn is a health crisis, that's a terrible word here, porn is a health crisis affecting people, that's ruining people's relationships and lives. This is a bad thing. And I think we have an opportunity now to use technologies like Onward that I built or other approaches to prevent that from happening, and at the same time, improve engagement and interaction with our customers today. Thank you. I don't know if you have something else on.
No, I just want to say such a big thank you to Gabe. That was such a great presentation. I hope you all learned something from it and get a chance to talk to him afterwards because he's really, really a great guy. I mean, thank you all for coming and spending this time with us.